What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Andy, and on this channel we talk about audio, video, and tech. And in this week's episode, I'm super excited to talk about all the new stuff from Blackmagicdesign, being the new firmware update 7.9, DaVinci Resolve 18, and the new Pocket 6K G2. Tons of stuff to talk about it. Let's get into it. All right, guys, it has been a crazy month for Blackmagicdesign, and it's been very exciting for those of us that are Blackmagicdesign fans like myself. They have been releasing stuff like crazy. So we are gonna be breaking down the firmware update 7.9 for the Pocket Cinema cameras. We are gonna be talking about new features in Resolve 18, and we are gonna be talking about the new specs for the Blackmagic Pocket 6K G2. Let's start with the firmware update 7.9. Now, Blackmagic came out and said, with this firmware update, it actually is giving us access to a hidden feature that has been in the cameras all along, and that is the gyro data. What does that mean for us? It means that we are able to better stabilize our footage in the new version of Resolve by capturing that gyro data and then using that to stabilize the footage. Now, in my tests, it works really great for some things, and it does not work very well at all for others. Now, the things that it works really great for are slow-moving shots. If you are moving slowly with the camera, if your subject is moving slowly in the frame, the stabilization works fantastic. It still looks handheld. It doesn't, smooth that out to give you a gimbal-like footage, but it does give you a very pleasing handheld look. It kind of eliminates all those little extra jitters, or bumps, or if you move the camera a little bit, you can get rid of all that using that gyro data. Now, on the other hand, the things that it doesn't work well for are fast-moving shots. At least in my test, I have not really got any good results if I was moving quickly with the camera or the subject was moving quickly. It just introduces so much motion blur that it almost accents that in the stabilization. It just looks really warpy and kind of wonky. So I don't think it's like perfect quite yet. I'm assuming that Blackmagic is going to, tweak that a little bit in future updates for Resolve. They're gonna probably, help with the processing. The processing speed for the gyro stabilization is, I would say, significantly longer than the other stabilization settings in Resolve as already. So that is something to keep in mind if you're editing and you're trying to stabilize a lot of footage. It does take quite a bit of horsepower to stabilize that, and it does take quite a bit longer. The setting only has one slider, which is just the strength. Now, with the other settings in the stabilization, so if you stabilized using perspective and you made a tweak to one of the sliders and you hit stabilize again, it stabilizes it almost instant. It does not do this with the gyro data. If you change that slider and hit stabilize, it's gotta go through the whole process again. So even on a short clip, could take 30 seconds, a minute maybe, depending on your computer. It has to do that every time. So it is gonna be a little bit time consuming to use the gyro stabilization. So again, pick your clips that you think it's gonna work well for, and I would avoid it on things that it's just gonna cause you more problems. So new hidden feature in the new firmware, gyro data. The thing that I'm most excited about from the new firmware update is the new user interface. I actually think this is more exciting to me. I feel like it cleans it up. It almost makes me feel like I'm using a new camera. I feel like the main screen, when you're shooting, you've got a little bit more real estate. They've kind of tightened up the menu systems. You still have access to all that info, but it feels a little more like tighter to the corners, maybe a little bit smaller, and it just kind of stays out of the way of your screen. It also gives you some options in there that I don't think were there before. The focus peaking, you're able to change the color of the focus peaking as well as the strength. And I don't think that was in there before. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they've kind of unlocked a little bit more options with that. And then with the new firmware, they're also claiming that you're gonna get better autofocus and lens support. Now, I have, in my test when shooting it, I didn't notice any difference. I am not shooting on native lenses though. I am using a speed booster and adapting Canon lenses, EF mount lenses to that. So it could be the speed booster, in the middle of that, just causing some problem. So maybe native lenses work much better with the new, with the better autofocus. I'm not sure. That is something that, if you guys have any insight on that, please leave in the comments below. I'd be curious to know. So again, firmware updates, we got the new gyro data, we've got a new user interface, and then we've got autofocus and upgraded lens support essentially. So new firmware, pretty exciting, good stuff. All right, let's talk about Resolve 18 because it does tie in with the new firmware update. If you are wanting to use that gyro data stabilization, you are gonna have to upgrade from 17 to 18. The 17 version is not gonna have that gyro data option in the stabilization. It will once you update. And then a side note too, the gyro data does not work for older footage. If you've already shot the clip prior to the firmware update and the new Resolve update, it is not gonna work. You're not gonna be able to go back and get old footage and restabilize it. It only works with new clips, so that is something to keep in mind. But if you are wanting to use the gyro data for stabilization, you're gonna have to update to 18. It is a free update, whether you're on the free version or the studio version, so again, no downside there. And then some of the other features that I'm gonna be talking about are only available in the studio version, so if you are on the fence about upgrading, now might be a great time to do it. I upgraded to studio a little while ago and I freaking love it. It actually runs a lot better and you get access to a lot of different features. You get access to the noise reduction. You've got some advanced motion blur settings. So there's some things that you don't have in the free version, as well as some other effects that you get in the studio version, but now might be the best time to do it because you're getting even more with the new update. So let's talk about my top 3 favorite things in the new update for Resolve. All right, let's talk about the first new feature that I'm excited about in Resolve 18, and that is the depth map. The depth map is gonna be an awesome tool for anybody that spends a ton of time rotoscoping or masking to isolate foreground from background. The depth map is gonna do that automatically for you. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna analyze your image, it's gonna calculate the depth of field, and then it's gonna allow you to make fine-tuned adjustments to isolate foreground from background, and that's gonna allow you to put text or objects between the foreground and the background instead of having to rotoscope it and mask it out. It's also gonna allow you to add effects to either the background without affecting the foreground and vice versa. So if you wanted to create a blur effect in the background, maybe you shot a clip at a really higher aperture and everything is in focus, and later you want to isolate your subject, you can kind of create a fake bokeh effect by isolating the foreground from the background, adding a blur, and again, kind of emulating that effect. So it's a really cool tool. It's gonna speed up a lot of people's workflows. So I'm pretty excited about the depth map. And again, that is a new update for just the studio version only. So again, another reason to update to the studio version. The next thing that I'm really excited about that they've added is the surface tracker. Now there's other trackers in Resolve already, but this is a really dynamic tracking tool. Something that's kind of weird to me though is that it is not available in the Fusion page. It is only available in the color page. And I don't know if that's gonna be changed. They're gonna add it to Fusion in the final version of Resolve 18. But right now, if you wanna use this tool, it is compositing, basically done in the color page, but I haven't had any issues with it. It seems to work fine. But the surface tracker is gonna allow you to create a very dynamic trackable mask that you can then stick objects to. So if you wanted to put a logo on somebody's shirt, you wanted to add a tattoo on somebody's arm, it's gonna allow you to do that, to mask the area that you want to add an image to, and then it's gonna allow you to track that, and it's gonna track all of the perspective as well. So it looks really cool. Lots of great examples out there online of people doing object tracking. It's really, really cool effect. And again, the mask itself, I think, as they develop it, is gonna get really, really cool down the road. So I would say that is definitely my second new favorite feature is the surface tracker. The third one, the last one I'm gonna talk about, there are more, but I'm just talking about the top 3, for me is the new magic mask. Now this is, again, a really cool tool, and it's gonna help speed up a lot of people's workflow, especially if you're somebody that shoots footage and spends a lot of time masking. Now this tool basically allows you to select an object in your footage, and it is going to use AI to kind of know what you want to mask out, and it's gonna create a mask on that object for you. That is a huge time saver instead of trying to draw a mask and move your points and try to get it tight and feather it and all this stuff. This is gonna be super fast where you just draw over the subject, it's gonna highlight it, then you can make all of your adjustments, add your effects. It's gonna speed up your workflow tremendously. I don't do a ton of masking in my shots, but maybe I will because this tool is gonna make it easier. But it's so cool. So again, the new features for Studio, we've got your depth map, which is huge, and it's gonna allow you to work faster isolating foreground and background. We've got the surface tracker, which again is gonna give you a more dynamic way to track a surface. And then you've got your magic mask, which again is gonna be super awesome for people that do a lot of masking in their footage. I think the sky's the limit on that one. So really exciting things for Resolve 18. The last thing we're gonna talk about in this video is the new Pocket Cinema Camera 6K G2, which is the newest Pocket Cinema camera in the lineup. First, when they released this, that they were coming out with this new camera, I didn't really understand why. It seemed like a step backwards from the 6K Pro, back down to just the 6K, but the more I thought about it, the more I looked at the specs, the more I thought it made a lot of sense. I definitely feel like from the 4K to the 6K, they did rush it a little bit. I don't think there was a huge upgrade for most people from the 4K to the 6K. The biggest benefit obviously is just the higher resolution of being able to shoot 6K. But it wasn't enough new features, I think, to pull a lot of people that way, unless you were somebody that really needed that 6K or you wanted to do more cropping in your images. The 6K Pro offered us a bunch of features that we all really wanted, an articulating screen and EVF, just some internal NDs. It offered all those pro cinema camera things that the 6K Pro or the 6K did not have. I think now what they're doing is taking all those exciting things that we were happy about in the 6K Pro, moving it back to the 6K, and then giving us a huge cost savings. The new 6K Pro G2 is gonna be $2,000 versus the 6K Pro, which is $2,500. Now, you don't get everything. You do lose the ND filters internally from the 6K Pro to the 6K G2. But again, a $500 savings. I don't think most people are gonna be too worried about that. If you're shooting on a cinema camera anyway, most people are shooting with a matte box, and you can use drop-in filters, no problem. You can use just lens filters as well. So I don't think anybody's gonna be too mad about losing the internal ND filters, especially when you're getting that $500 savings. But now you get the articulating screen, you get obviously your 6K resolution like you had before, same sensor, but you're getting the screen and the EVF, and I think they're kind of just rounding out that 6K, and my guess is that the 6K Pro will go away completely, and I hope that means that they will be developing a new Pocket Cinema camera, maybe something 8K or 12K, and kind of bringing it to that cinema camera line that's a little more affordable. So I think it is an exciting new release, even though it doesn't seem like a huge change. It kind of seems like a simplified 6K Pro, which it is. But I think I'm excited for what that means in that lineup. Maybe a new camera coming down the road to replace where the 6K Pro is. And also just the $500 price drop. It might be something now that I kind of consider looking at upgrading from the 4K to the 6K. Now that I'll have the 6K resolution, the EVF, the tilting screen, now it's in an affordable place where I think most people would make that jump. So I think it's exciting. Good move on Blackmagic's part. But that's it, guys. Those are the new things from Blackmagic, the firmware, Resolve 18, and the new camera. I appreciate you guys for watching. I was super excited to do this video because I'm a huge Blackmagic fan. So please like and subscribe. Drop me a comment down below. Is there something that I missed in the updates that you were excited about that I didn't talk about? Definitely share with the community. I think everybody would be happy to hear it. And if you haven't already, like I said, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and it takes like 2 seconds. It doesn't even cost you anything. So yeah, do it. All right, have a great day, guys.